occasionally. So,
So Jerry, you're getting a slap back big time. Big time.
I know how to control it. I'm on headphones, brother. So.
What about you, Ronnie? You're on headphones?
Headphones too.
What's going on?
Still
Are you
getting
getting crazy feedback?
Oh yeah.
I hear a delay.
It's unusable. It's unusable. Wait, hang on. Is that good?
Is that better?
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Much obliged.
Hey, are we good?
We're good.
We're good, because I don't hear myself, and I don't hear an echo. But I still hear the tribal drum out the fucking window. It started. I literally had no idea until I was walking home an hour ago from busking, Ron. I was out busking all day in the neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
As I just walked up the street just now, and there's a neighborhood community activist group. They're awesome. Jamie in my neighborhood, they do these amazing events. And they're literally on tribal drums out in the park outside, right when we want to do our live at 6 o'clock. So we got some challenges. We have some challenges ahead of us. That's it, dude.
It is rock and roll.
I'll leave it to you, Dave. Why don't you give us the intros?
Well, welcome, Ron. We appreciate it. Ron Hawkins, welcome to I Was There, Man. And what we've done is we started off this little show. Jerry and I met each other in radio college ages ago. And we started off this little show called I Was There, Man. It was capturing concert stories and just getting people to tell us what's going on. And it's morphed. And we've morphed it into this way for us to capture and document the music scene in Toronto. So thank you so much for coming on board. Jerry's got a little connection he's going to tell you about, and then we're going to kind of go back and forth. It's pretty loose. Is a half an hour work for you? Is that good?
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. Thank you for being here, Ron. So yeah, we always like to break the ice with a kind of little bit anecdotal story, the kind of thing that we're trying to capture here on the show. Like you said, we did concert stories that spilled over into other cool rock and roll moments. Like the little one I was busking in this neighborhood down in the St. Lawrence, man. This is about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Outside the patios on Front Street down there. And this couple, they finished their meal. This lovely woman came over, older woman, and she threw a fin into the case, and she was like, "Man, you sound really good." And I'm playing busking mostly stuff from the middle of the last century. R&B, soulful stuff with a Telecaster and a pig nose and a tremolo pedal and just vibing out. And she was so proud to announce that she was the one mother of one Ron Hawkins, leader.
Oh my God, there you go.
And she was the sweetest woman, and all I could see was my mom in her, because the way she goes, you know, my son plays in the band, you know. And of course maybe I've heard of them.
The important question is, did she throw anything in your case?
She threw a finner in the case. She took good care of me, Ron.
Nice.
She's a wonderful woman.
She didn't pull the old, I don't have any change. You got a square? You got one of those squares?
Square, yeah, right.
She was awesome and clearly proud, reminded me of my mother who would have told a story about me being a musician, in which case I responded with, "Oh my God, I worked with David Ray Alexander 25 years ago in visual effects." So I spent 25 years in visual effects after Dave and I went to radio school. And I did meet, and this is our connection that we got you here tonight, is I known David for since 2001 or so. And I came to see the band at the Lee's Palace gigs way back then when he used to invite the crew out. So We're happy to have you tonight, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Although I should be on a show called I Was There, Man, but I'm not sure I remember.
That's part of the fun.
If you guys have that show, I could be on that
That's
show.
part of the fun. We've got some great stories we've heard. And so to that end, I have heard that I heard from an interview you did with George Stroumboulopoulos that you saw the Clash at Maple Leaf Gardens, and you also talked about your writing influences from Public Enemy, hence the shirt. So when you were a punk ass kid, you're coming up, music hits you like a ton of bricks. What was the show you went to that blew your mind? Most people say it was their first one, but maybe it wasn't your first one. So what's your first?
It's probably a season of shows, because there's the Clash show. I think I saw the Clash. I saw Midnight Oil on the Diesel and Dust tour. And then pretty much every summer in the 80s from about, I'm going to guess from about 85 to 90, 91, I saw Billy Bragg at the concert hall, first round of the concert hall. And I always talk about those shows specifically. Obviously, the Clash is probably, if I had to say what's your favorite band in history, I would probably say the Clash. But Billy live was like, just a light went off in my head to see him, because it was like, first off, I would say, like, is he running around in circles doing jumping jacks backstage before he comes out? Because he would bolt out between the curtains like he was shot out of a cannon. He was just so up for it every single time. And he delivered every single time. And it was more about, it was, of course, about his performance and the songs I loved, but it was more about, when I looked around, everybody was sent out into the street at the end of those shows like a spark plug, like whatever it is that they do in their life, they're going home right now. And if they were phoning it in yesterday, they're not phoning it in today. They're going to go home and do the best, be the best version of who they are, and I put that on Billy as a, it's what sort of taught me that you could be an artist, because I grew up as a political person. I became a political person at the same time I became a serious musician. And it was like, for a little short period of time, I didn't know how I was going to weave the two together. But then when I saw Billy, it was like, oh yeah, it doesn't have to just be about entertainment. It can be about, you can give these people this perfect gift of sending them out into the world with all of this energy, change the world, change their lives, whatever it is, So those shows were really important.
His message was so strong that it resonated with the audience, that they took on that charge. I get that. That's cool. He's amazing.
Yeah, with him, the cool thing about him is it's not about be like Billy. It's like he I'm sure he loves the people that are inspired to become like he is. But his whole thing is just like, be the best human you can. Go out and do whatever it is that you do. Go out and do it at the best of your abilities, and live your life. Like, don't phone it. Don't spend a second phoning anything in. Right. That's what I took away from it. Anyway, maybe that's not what he was putting out, but that's what I took away. So
I saw.
Those shows were important.
I saw Midnight Oil at that in that era in Vancouver, and I also saw them in I forget where the Diesel and Dust tour was. I saw them in Edmonton, because I grew up in Edmonton but lived in Vancouver for a while, and that's actually where I'm at right now. Right. But yeah, it was, talk about not phoning it in. I mean, you got this guy who's 6 foot, who knows how much, bald guy, cruising around the stage and just daring you to think, and to do something with your life. I agree. I agree.
Sort of the demoralizing side of seeing an amazing band like that. The other one is I saw the Purple Rain tour, Prince and the Revolution, and I tell my daughter, I often tell my daughter, I'm like, there's 3 kinds of bands in your life. There's the band you go see, makes you want to start a band. Then there's a band you go see, like Billy, who makes you want to go home and make your band the best band you've ever seen. And then there's a band like Prince and the Revolution where you just go, fuck this, and you throw your hands in the air and you go like, I might as well get a different job, Because they were so tight and so good that they were doing crazy shit, like Sheila E. was playing drums. And I feel like at some point, maybe I've embellished this in my mind, that she threw the sticks up in the air and the Prince kind of leapfrogged over and caught the sticks and didn't drop a beat and was playing the drums. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, my band is trying to learn the songs. Get the songs down so we can play them.
Yeah. Still working. Yeah. Focused on the click track.
So that was.
So I must confess, man. The one thing about I Was There, Man, we show off this giant basket full of concert stubs that I've had. I've seen over 300 shows. The number one show I ever saw in my life was Prince Musicology here in Toronto, man. Blew my mind. Maceo Parker in the band, in the round. Nothing touches it. In the middle of the set, he sat down in a show of every 3 hours, no opening band. I knew every song. He did a medley of the number one hits, Ron. And I went, oh my God. Like, how many songs and how great can this guy be? So, amazing.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many great stories about him. I don't know if you guys have read the absolutely harrowing Replacements biography. If you do what I did, which is read a chapter a day. Like, don't read more than a chapter. It's so incredibly dark. Like, all the guys went through such crazy shit when they were kids that I was like, take a big breath, put the book down, and read another chapter tomorrow. But there's a chapter about them growing up in Minneapolis and them being, like flannel-clad indie rocker dudes. And at some point, I think Paul Westerberg's pissing at the urinal, and out of peripheral vision, he sees like what is coming in, like some kind of peacock is coming in here, and he turns and it's Prince. who's about 16. I think Prince is wearing a Speedo and high heels and whatever, right? And rather than the sort of like music ghetto that people can get in, they struck up a conversation, and then Prince jumped on stage with them and played some guitar with the Replacements. And I'm like, how amazing is that?
Bam. Yeah. Bam. Amazing. Funny. Dave has his own bathroom Prince. Ironically enough.
Yeah, kind of funny. I saw it. I was living.
Is it tellable on the internet or what?
It actually is. It actually is. No, I was living in Victoria, and for whatever reason, I didn't go see the tour, but I got tickets to his after hours party, and so Maceo Parker showed up. So I was drinking at the time. They didn't come on until 2 or 3 in the morning, and before they came on, I figured I'd one more bathroom break. So I go to the washroom and I look up, and he's right there, and I said, "Holy shit, it's Prince!" And he just smiled at me. Right? It was hilarious.
You said it out loud?
Oh yeah. I said it out loud. Yeah.
Holy shit, it's Prince.
Holy shit, it's Prince. And he just looked at me and he smiled. And he knows
not the first time.
Went on stage. Yeah, right on.
Love it.
So you if we were to maybe to capture like the timings, you've been doing this as a musician since Social Insecurity 1983, give or take, right? So can you take us back to the East End in Toronto, to what the look and the sound was like? Because this next project of I Was There, Man, the next iteration is us, like I say, really painting the picture, not only era, but geography. The neighborhoods of Toronto are like few other neighborhoods in the world. The city is such a great mosaic. So maybe you could take us back to your East End experience in the early days.
Well, that would start with how many times I'm told now when I run into people and talk about where I grew up, and they go, "Oh, you grew up in Leslieville," and I go, "No, I didn't grow up in Leslieville." Like Leslieville now, you get a good cup of coffee, you get some nice mid-century modern furniture, but like when I grew up there, it was a much more rough and tumble, and it was very, very working class. I believe it was the headquarters of the Heritage Front was there. So that's a far right movement. So that was, there was a lot of socialists and commies, and there was a lot of right wing stuff going on. There were biker gangs down there. So there was a real clash of the titans in the neighborhood, and it was palpable, that there was a buzz in the neighborhood. And of course, I didn't know this as a little kid, but as I became a teenager and started to get aware of my surroundings and started to get aware of the world and politics and stuff like that, I realized, I had that sort of realization that sometimes you don't get in the moment, which is that I'm living in the heart of something. I don't know what it is, but I'm living in the heart of something right now, and something's going on. And I started becoming a musician, and we started Social Insecurity. And as David Alexander will attest to, my friend Ken and I were the other two members. We put an ad in for a drummer, and he says the ad said, was it conscious dance band looking for drummer? And it was like, and it was one of the, in the days of like pull the little paper tab off at Long McQuaid or off a, telephone pole or whatever. He answered the ad and he said, like, when we got together, we used to get together at this coffee place right at Carlaw and Gerrard, where the Carlaw Bridge is. And we had all our band meetings there, and we were a straight edge band. So we just used to guzzle tea and eat butter tarts and stuff like this. But so he showed up, and he said, I think we grilled him for an hour, and we didn't even talk about music. Like we didn't even talk about what bands he liked, or we just talked about politics and what kind of person he was. So that's where my head was at in those days. And then we hired Dave on, and so that was our first real band. I had been in a band in 1981. Called the Rhythmatics, but we were kind of like doing covers and throwing the odd original here and there, but we had no idea what we wanted to be. So Social Insecurity was the first time I actually had a band where we knew exactly what it was we wanted to do. And we were in the East End of Toronto was our headquarters, but then we would go out and play places like the Turning Point, which doesn't exist anymore. Turning Point on Bloor Street, which would give us like he'd go, "I'll give you a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday." It was like, I was talking about this with somebody recently, which is Jimmy Scopes at the Cabana and Joe and his wife who ran the Turning Point. I look at them now and I go, why did they own a punk club? Because they were like these older, they were either from the East Coast of Canada or they were Irish or whatever, but they were older people, and they owned this bar that was a punk bar, and they just sort of embraced it. And they had a friend, I think her name was Lily, and she had like full on, you know, like Flo from Alice, you know, like a dyed red
A
pompadour.
beehive.
Beehive, yeah, and she had walked around with like a mic stand, the base of a mic stand, and I've seen her like throw skinheads down the stairs. Like nobody wanted to fuck with her, right? And she was sort of security, I guess. I don't know. So these weird places where, as a 16-year-old kid, you'd go in and play these places, and you know, I now I look back on it, and I have a 20-year-old daughter. Now I look back on it, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why were my parents letting me do that? Why was I doing that? You know, like. But in the moment, it just seemed kind of romantic and sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, you don't think about it much, right? But there are these, you know, lovely patrons of the arts like Joe and his wife and Jimmy Scopes at the Cabana Room and the guys who ran Larry's Hideaway, which were basically, these were like places that gave these young kids a place to go and these young punks a place to start, you know?
And so when you did, so you guys have the Lowest of the Low as the 35th anniversary of Shakespeare My Butt, and in that album, you're name checking real iconic areas like the Don River, the Bathurst, Carlaw Bridge. So it obviously had more of an impact than just the socio-political side, the actual neighborhood itself. You felt a real strong connection. Is there a reason why you did that? I mean, because you hear that kind of in New York, where they'll refer to places where writers lived, or there'll be Hollywood, but Toronto, that wasn't necessarily happening, right?
Yeah, you don't hear about it.
And I don't know why. It was sort of a combination of like, you know, I have Irish heritage as well, and it's a very oral, you know, it's a very oral culture. So the idea of like turning your personal life into a story is not that unusual. But it's not how I was writing before that. Like the band we had before Lowest of the Low, David was also in that band with me. It was called Popular Front, and we were writing these kind of big, sprawling, you know, political songs about the world, you know, places that I hadn't been to, and you know, and I sort of knew the nuts and bolts from reading about them and stuff like that, but it wasn't in my blood, right? And so those songs kind of, they worked and they didn't work, and for whatever reason, around 1990, 1991, I started, like, hey, I wrote this song about my friend and about the Carlaw Bridge, and I wrote this song about, and suddenly it was like when I started writing about my neighborhood and people I knew, that became contagious with people, and it really struck a chord. So I think I just kind of stumbled into realizing, you know, the very first dictum they always tell you about writing, which is write what you know. You know,
Right, what you know.
Could have learned that earlier, 10 years earlier, I don't know, but
Yeah.
but I learned it then, and it really is true. It really, you know, because it's a counterintuitive idea. You think like, well, if I write about the Carlaw Bridge, like somebody in Vancouver doesn't know what I'm talking about, but it's like, but they have a Carlaw Bridge, right? So if it rings true, then almost like the more microscopic you make it, the more macroscopic a vibe it has, you know?
Yeah, I do know. I grew up in Edmonton, and SNFU was a band that, you know, probably the biggest band to come out of Edmonton, and the punk scene there, it's like you've referenced in Toronto, it was kind of this pressure cooker, right? Where we would go to, one of the places we went to was the Ukrainian Hall. I saw SNFU there at the Ukrainian Hall. You probably played there and you know, and Suicidal Tendencies was there. So now, one of the things that Toronto had, so I lived there from the early 90s until 2000s. I spent my 20s there. A couple things that happened was the media. CFNY was a big one. And then Moses Neimer and City TV and Much Music, with, you know, City TV being everywhere, but what they did with Much Music and what CFNY did, and I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Lowest of the Low you guys were a real live band and had a push through CFNY with people like Strombo and Martin Streak, and those guys, and because it was connected, the media, the radio, and Much Music was connected to the clubs heavily, which was also connected to the neighborhood at the time, was Queen West. Was that, you know, how was your experience with CFNY and with Much and City TV?
Oh, like 100%. I would not be sitting here talking to you guys if it wasn't for like a long laundry list of people like that. But, you know, obviously CFNY, The Edge, Dave Bookman, that is the magical key for us, because they literally took on playing songs. You know, Shakespeare in My Butt was supposed to be demos, and we couldn't get signed by anybody, so we decided to release it ourselves, and we didn't go in and re-record it. Those were the demos we made, right? And so Bookman had a show, I think he had an hour in which he could just choose to play whatever he wanted to play, and so he was playing our demos basically, and it was like, hilarious to me because of the fast and furious way we produced it, you would have somebody who was on a label maybe or whatever, and you would hear, you know, the production and the mastering at this level, and then they would play Salesman, Cheats and Liars, and it would go like that. You know, it would go down in volume, and then it would come back up to the next song, and they didn't give a shit. It was like they were acting. They had a huge, far-reaching transmitter, but they were acting like they were a college radio station. You know, at least in those hours, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was, you know, we came up in radio college, and we went to, the reason why I've dropped George Strombolopoulos' name a couple times is not because I only want him on the show, but we went to college with him. And
Right.
so he's our, you know, our famous friend that
We were the three cool kids, and one of us made it, and the other one's, you know, here we are.
I think really we were one cool kid that made it and two wannabes that are sitting here talking to you, right?
And one kid is busking for my mom.
There you go.
There you
There
go,
you go.
man.
There you go. Cool. So are there
So
any Toronto
what-
rooms and venues that made you, and which ones are gone? Like any clubs that were back in the day that you played, that you love to play? Because that's something we could get into, because that's, you know.
Well, this is leading to something I wanted to hop in and ask about, actually, man. Another band we had on, another act, if you will, man, an artist, a giant, was on a few weeks ago, man. Another early 90s Queen West guy who I know you've had a connection with, Gordy Johnson and Big Sugar. So
Right.
was it the Rusty Nails? Did you tour? Was it the Rusty Nails that toured with Gordy and Big Sugar?
We didn't tour with them. We did dates. Actually, the Low did a date with them in Halifax at the Double Deuce. And I remember because our sound man at some point clocked us off the stage in a sound check or something. He said, "Just so you know, you guys are like 125 dB off the stage." And I had no. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. That sounds good." And he's like, "Well, just so you know, like a jet engine is like 115." He's like, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And so we.
What were you
considered ourselves-
using as a guitar player? What were you using on stage? Were you in like
I
Marshalls?
think
or were you doing
I had a high watt head
Yeah.
and a Marshall speaker.
Okay.
And then I had three at the time in the Low. I had three pedals. There was like a blues driver for loudness, and then I would kick on a tube screamer for more loudness, and then I had a pedal which was an old MXR pedal, and everything had, all the labels had worn off, so in a marker I just had written "fucking loud" on it. So that was the one I went, like, if there's no more distortion in the world, that's the one I kicked on for more distortion.
Nice.
It was maximum rock and roll. There you go. I'm glad I asked. Sorry. Back to your
we were
Gordy Johnson.
so I thought we were like the loudest band in Toronto, and then we stepped
Yeah.
into the room when Big Sugar was sound checking for the show we were going to do with them, and I was like, I have to leave. It's like, this seems to be twice as loud as we are, and I don't know how that's possible. But so they were the loudest band I had heard, and 13 Engines. Those guys were ludicrously loud as well.
There you go.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and the Rusty Nails also did play with Big Sugar. I think we played Halloween in Calgary or something one year, and yeah, so our paths had crossed. You know, another Gordy. I ran into Gord Downey. We did a show with him in Buffalo, and he came out of his trailer and he put his arm around me. He said, "Bron," this was like 2000 and I don't know what, 2015 or something like that. He goes, "Ron, is it possible that we've never met?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's weird, right? Like, because for decades we had been just crossing the country in our bands, and and we had never met. So it was like that was kind of cool to."
That's a moment. Jesus, man.
Canadian royalty there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's, yeah,
literally.
you know, yeah.
And me.
It's- Well, I was
We
talking
had-
about you, Ron. It was some other guy named Gordon.
Normally I
Whoever
would have
that-
said
the
"and
Gordy
Gord,"
guy.
but
Yeah. There you
I'm
go.
humble today.
There you go.
It's funny. That's the second story we've had about Gordy Gord
Downey.
Downey putting his arm around a guest, man. Right? We had Jojo. He sat Jojo down in the middle of the stage, a photographer friend of ours at Ontario Amphitheater in the Round back in the day, and said, "Sit right there." And he got to take some of the best rock and roll photos ever of Gordy.
Amazing.
So, yeah, totally.
That would
Speaking
see
of
that the Ontario, the Edge Fest in the Round is the one I would have been. I was there, man, but I don't remember.
Ah, very good. Very good.
there's some inside information.
Because you're tired. You're just tired and hungry. right?
Yeah. The
Hadn't had a
road's
sandwich
hard,
that
man. The road's hard, dude.
What's the excuse they use at Mariah Carey? Whatever, exhaustion. I had exhaustion. I was suffering from exhaustion.
Right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
She's in the hospital for 2 weeks. Yeah.
So I guess I was going to ask you about venues, but I'm thinking that based on the people we're talking about, was there any influence you had, or were you influenced at all or connected to, say, like a Neil Young, where he's writing songs, clearly some of the most politically charged songs that have ever been written, and one of the hardest rockers to ever live. and he's coming out of the Yorkville scene, 60s, 70s. Was there any connection with you to him or to anybody else like that you would have been influenced in the Toronto scene and maybe
No,
some of the clubs?
In the Toronto scene, it would have been more like when we were starting Social Insecurity. I guess the guys in L'étranger were just a little bit older than us. So like Andrew Cash and Chuck Angus. And so it was like, I always joke that when we started Social Insecurity, it was our dream to, if we could ever open for L'étranger, then we would have made it, right? And I think within 3 or 4 months, we got a gig opening at Larry's Hideaway, and I was like, oh, okay, we need a new dream now because we've done the thing, right?
Done it.
And and we looked up to those guys for the same reason. They seemed committed. I really liked their politics. I love their music, and it was like, they seem to have it down. They look good, And that's the thing that it's funny because I'm so adamant about lyrics, and because we're so adamant about being authentic, people are surprised when I go, no, dude, it's like 70% of it is like, how do I look standing like this? How do I look jumping off the drum rack? Like that's some of the stuff I pulled from the Clash. It's like your band has to look good too, right?
It is rock and
Maybe that's
roll.
shallow.
No, it's not, and I can see the shoes behind you there. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
better
those
to
are all my
look good
shoes.
than to feel good. They've been saying that for decades. Yeah.
Exactly.
So go ahead, Jerry.
I was gonna hop in with a funny anecdotal kind of cool thing. So we did ask previously before the show went if anyone had any questions to supply while we had you in the room, and we did get a submission, and it was from a Lowest of the Low fan, and so I want to read this question to you. They deserve this, okay? The question is, and I guess they clearly know, like I know, about your painting. You have a fine art interest. When you are painting, are you thinking about song lyrics? And when you are playing music, are you thinking about painting? Or do you just thinking about doing your laundry while you're doing it?
Huh. Well, they're very different disciplines in a way. Obviously, they're informed by some similar things because some of the work I do with visual art has an activisty kind of socio-political bent to it. Not all of it, but some of it does. And when I'm doing that, then sometimes I'll even like pinch lines from my songs and put them in the paintings. And I'm a big fan of, like, in every kind of art, songs or visual art, I'm a big fan of the Easter egg, when somebody puts something in that you don't see right away, but eventually you discover it, and that either it sends you to learn about what that thing is, or it's just a thing for you that, a joke, an inside joke that you would get, and you see it and you go, that's cool. Like I really like that. So I'm often layering things in there. And I'll do things like, because I feel like I got this, I don't know who, maybe Billy, somebody, but I learned early on that you can, like sometimes I'll drop a writer's name, or there's a song, a Rusty Nail song, I can't remember exactly the phrasing, but guy sitting in the passenger seat, I tried so hard to look like Martin Donovan. And Martin Donovan is an indie actor from films made by a guy named Hal Hartley. And so I would like to do that every now and then, drop a thing like that I think is cool. And it's like somebody will, go, oh, I wonder who that is. And they'll look it up, and then maybe you'll see his films. And then, and the most amazing version of that is in Rosie and Gray, when I talk about read Henry Miller and wander around, and I've sort of said in the decades afterward is that, Henry Miller's a problematic writer because there's so many amazing things about him, about cutting yourself loose from, the sort of machine man society and be your own person and, get outside of that society. But it was also, there's an awful lot of like rape culture in his writing. There's a lot of, questionable, like a lot of misogyny and questionable beliefs. And, some of it is from his time, but also it's problematic. So then there's a woman named Chanel Miller, and Chanel Miller wrote a book about how she was sexually assaulted on a campus. And it was a very famous case that people probably have heard about. So she wrote this book that I picked up and read. And I thought, not only is it fascinating to hear her story, but also she somehow made it very humorous. There's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of joy in it. There's a lot of life in it. So she's very alive. And so I've started singing, read Chanel Miller and wander around. And so it was kind of a perfect way for me to go, like, the names are the same, it fits. And she's almost an anecdote to all the things that are wrong with Henry Miller. And I thought, what a great little thing I can do, and what a great little Easter egg. And what happens is I'll see maybe 4 or 5 people in the crowd that'll catch it, and then a little smile will come on their face, like, oh, usually they're women, but they're not always women. But I like to do, I like to play those little tricks once in a while, which is like,
Well done, man.
throw something out there and see if anybody will catch it, And if they don't, I understand.
Right.
It's fast and furious, but yeah.
Well done, man.
Fabulous. So there's one.
I got to keep it interesting,
Yeah.
After all these years.
So there's one piece of housekeeping that we like to get everybody to do.
Yeah.
And if you could say, my name is Ron Hawkins and I was there, man, that would be fabulous. And then because it's a half an hour, we'll cut you loose.
Yeah. We won't keep you much longer here, man. Thank you.
Well, my name's Ron Hawkins, and I'm pretty sure I was there, man.
Thank you, sir. Much
Thank you for
obliged.
entertaining our silliness. I appreciate you for taking the time, and I'm sorry for the confusion of the thing, because we were doing them at 9. But yeah, we've transitioned to this new. So this will go out live now on YouTube. It just went out as a live stream. It'll be permanently up as a live. I'll probably cut an episode out of this, and we will also release some promos from some of your stories, man. So thank you, Ron, for the time.
And we'll stay in touch. We'll stay in
cheers,
touch.
guys.
Really been a pleasure.
And
Thank you.
the other housekeeping thing, man, we'd love to do. We always ask our guests, if you've had a good time with us and you love the whole concept of what we're doing, we'd love to follow up and get a couple names out of you. Either someone who would be a good storyteller, someone who deserves their story to be told, or someone you just think would be a good fit for the show. We'd love to follow up with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate
Fabulous.
you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, sir. Ciao.
Well done. Thank you. We play outro. There we go. Yeah, end it. Come on.